I'm Bitcoin Jason, and I'm here with Duncanomics, and we're on his podcast. So I hope you enjoy your show, and I'll give it to Duncan. Here you go.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. Good to finally catch up with you. Last episode that I did, I called it Techfreely, episode 1. I took my audience on I called it Fighting Back with Cryptocurrency. Did a little introduction on that. In that series, I want to try to make it a little bit about using technology to promote freedom for individuals. I think it's a really effective way to sort of fight back. I said to my audience, even though I wouldn't discourage you from going to a protest or something like that, that I think technology can be much more effective, and trying to use tools in our everyday life to fight back and to promote freedom when they're useful. So in that episode, I was talking about cryptocurrency in general, but I did bring up Bitcoin Cash, and I was really keen to get you on the show, and we thought we would do a joint thing today because I know that you live in Townsville, and I mentioned Townsville because they've been known as Bitcoin Cash City, where I've heard, I think that there's about 200 or more, and maybe you can correct me, of businesses that will accept Bitcoin Cash, that you can go in and instead of using an FPOS or cash, there's a lot of people, that's another thing, a lot of people recently I've noticed are trying to push against CBDCs, and they'll promote this idea of using cash. And I can sort of see why you would do that. But Bitcoin Cash is quite different to people. So I'm really keen to hear about that. So can you, maybe if you could just, for my audience, your audience probably already know, but can you just describe what you do in Townsville and what it's like in Bitcoin Cash City?
Cash City. Bitcoin Cash City is a fresher breath air. So previously I was living on the Gold Coast, where I was by myself. And then there was a guy called Gabriel, First Meal, and he encouraged me to basically document what I've been doing on the Gold Coast with merchant adoption. And, because he was tipping people, but he wasn't adopting merchants, and he was passionate. He did a video every day. The guy's got loads of energy, and I was really, he's an elder gentleman, and I really was really encouraged and motivated. He actually motivated me. So everything about me is basically by his prompting. He's a young. I call him a young man because he's young in spirit. He's got a lot of energy, very smart, articulate. I wish I was like him in many ways of being articulated and the way of investor mindset. But what it boils down for me is that this politically and socially speaking has been coming for a very long time. We know that fiat currency does not, like every 100 years or so, it collapses. It's also becoming a more and more of a means of control over one's lives. So if you want to control the masses, you cause inflation. Causes people to get a pay rises, then you can tax them again because they go to the next tax bracket. So the everyday guy like you and me, Dominic, are forever playing catch up. By the time we have a good year where everything sort of equalizes, then something else happens where the value of our dollar is going down. And I like Bitcoin. In the beginning, I got into Bitcoin. So what happened is I was listening to a podcast. It's I don't know if I can say it if we're on YouTube, but it was we call him AJ. AJ was talking to a guy, and they were talking about the demographic cliff, and they were talking about economics and these sorts of stuff. And this is my nerd brain switched on because I'm very political, very socially minded person.
Okay.
And I saw that having a 21 million cat mintage of a coin or a value of something means that as the population grows, so does the worth of it, because it's a supply and demand issue. So where it separates us from gold is gold, you can always go to mine more gold. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? I respect gold. I have gold, right? But the problem with gold is if I wanted to send a contract with you, Dominic, that's down south, of, further down in the cold end of Australia, and I'm in Townsville, how are we going to do that? How do you know that my gold is actually real gold and not some sort of counterfeit? You know what I mean? So having a verifiable, trustless way of transaction and limited mintage where the government just can't print more, it's mathematically released in the ecosystem every so often. That was very attractive to me. But I'm not a geek, you know what I mean? I'm not tech-minded. So it took me to April 2016 before I got my very first Bitcoin, right?
Yeah, okay, that's reasonably early.
Yeah, and I wish I kept a lot of it. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I would have got the,
So
So
what did you do?
So in the I spent it.
Okay.
There was in Brisbane, in the airports, you used to be able to spend Bitcoin at certain shops like Nom Noms.
Yeah, okay.
Even Red Rooster, they had a payment processor there called I forget what it's called, brain fart. Anyway, they had this coin thing where they will bring it up and you can pay in Bitcoin. The problem is later, as Bitcoin started becoming more mainstream, it didn't adhere to the white paper of growing with the network according to Moore's law. They decided they handicapped it. So what happens is the fees went through the roof. And so I found myself in a peculiar situation where I was getting false information by people that wanted to control Bitcoin because they saw the power of it. They wanted to control it. And so then you had a split. You had Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash came out. So I've got both. I've got Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. Fast forward, right? I'm stacking both. Fast forward, coming down to the shutdowns and the lockdowns and things like that, it became more apparent that Bitcoin, if it had grown with the network, would be far more valuable than it is today, right? And that Bitcoin Cash has been artificially suppressed. The network growth of a Bitcoin Cash is far greater, where during COVID, right, during the lockdowns, when I could not work, I had investment properties where I had squatters in that is just bleeding me dry of funds, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've got a measly government subsidy for staying indoors. They've sabotaged my business. The way that things worked, it could make people bankrupt. They close your business down. You close your business down. They close my ability to make income. I've had squatters in my house, and so in a period where I could not work, I had to go back down to Townsville because I used to live in Townsville. Right? And my very first meetup, cryptocurrency meetup, was actually a Bitcoin Cash meetup. Now, this is the thing that converted me, Dominic, is I used to be able to buy a meat pie and a Coke with Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Okay. Used to be able to do that. But then what happened is all the merchants either dropped off or converted to Bitcoin Cash. Right. Now these merchants in Townsville, I did not onboard them. Great people that forward thinkers, futuristic, that they did that. You know, you got a few companies there, and I'll plug them because they're reputable guys. You've got Aptizio, great bunch of guys, and you've got Code Valley that's working on a project that I'm very keen to see released, hopefully beginning of next year. And you've got blockchain accountants in Townsville, right?
Okay.
That's why it was coined Bitcoin Cash City. I didn't come up with that. That's a community that grew out of reputation, because when I was there was about 40 odd merchants that accepted Bitcoin Cash, right? As payment. Yep. This is not accepting it through a terminal where it gets converted to fiat currency.
Yep.
They accept it as it is, right? Then they go and they can spend it. Now, if someone did want to cash out, they generally sell it back to the community. So the coins never go back on the exchanges. I love that idea, and I adopted that. So when I moved to the Gold Coast, right, when I moved there for a season for employment and for other reasons.
Okay.
I took what I learned, right? And the conversion, the awakening, right? Aptizio had this candy machine, right? They had this machine, and it just ran off a simple PowerPoint, and there was that was the only lead, right? I kid you not, Duncan, I bought candy. I bought like M&M type, Jaffa type style Bitcoin Cash lollies, right? For like 10 cents or whatever it was. I can't quite remember at the time, but I bought it and it was instantaneous. I scanned it and then held my hand out, and now I had my M&M things.
Okay.
Duncan, you can't do that with BTC. You can't even do that with Doge. There's no other coin that can do that.
Okay. So let's just go really slow here. For the people that don't know, when you say that you can't do that, something changed. You talked about fees. What can you just be real specific? What if I wanted to buy something? Let's say, you're a merchant in Townsville, you're in Bitcoin City, and we could use, like actually last week I had my, just like here, I had my demo screen, and I showed people how to use the app. They could scan, and I showed how you could scan through the computer and buy something. So if we did that now, and I wanted to buy a Coke and a pie, like you said, or maybe something a bit more you'd send in the mail, maybe a book or something. You wrote a book and I wanted to order it, and it's $20. Why couldn't I use Bitcoin? Wouldn't that be fine?
I'll give you a perfect example. I'll give you a perfect example because after Split, right, I used to have I used to do mining, Bitcoin mining.
Okay.
It got so bad that the mining company to purchase the mining rigs, right, I think it was S9 at the time, they were accepting Bitcoin Cash, because by the time the transaction could be paid, it would time out. The QR code would time out. You know what I mean? With the Bitcoin Cash transaction, it was instant. It was done and paid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was, and I wish I picked it up then, but I didn't. So the company ended up turning into a scam anyway. They end up taking people's Bitcoin and then not actually buying new equipment with it, right? Because it was like a mining pool, right? So that's my bad. I think everyone's been scammed at one point of their life. Getting into cryptocurrency, because look, dude, I'm just a normal Joe off the street that saw something and know, yes, that's the future, right?
Yep.
So with my limited knowledge and experience, I've entered into a realm, and I've started in Bitcoin mining through a mining pool, right? Because that's the best way of mining, is if you can combine your mining rigs with other people. Apparently they're in Iceland, Greenland, and you could see it all and all that sort of stuff, right? So when I bought my mining rigs, that's where most of my Bitcoin went. I got rugged, right?
Okay.
They were accepting Bitcoin Cash for this for the mining rigs because the payment was faster instantaneously. I've even tried to use Lightning. Lightning doesn't work, my friend. I don't care what they say, right?
Okay.
Unless you go through a custodial wallet where you're entrusting someone. Oh, I'm going on a rant. Stick to Bitcoin Cash.
Yeah.
I bought this candy with Bitcoin Cash because what would happen is if I was to send you $1, Duncan, it'll cost me $2 in fees. It became a rich man's coin. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so that seems strange. So I've experienced the exact same thing. It's weird. Bitcoin that you see on the news, and they use the ticker symbol BTC, really well known. Everyone knows it's got the brand name, and when you start to actually use it, you realize it every time you transact, you can pay $1, $5. It really depends, and it's weird because for those that don't know this, if you spend more money on that transaction, you'll skip the queue a bit, and it'll be faster. So if you pay too low, if you only pay $1, and that seems like a lot. If I was buying a cup of coffee, I wouldn't want to spend $1. I might have to wait overnight or something like that. It really just depends on how congested the network is. It's really strange when I first learnt this. It's this amazing cryptocurrency, but it's congested, which is really confusing. And it's interesting that you say that. You talk about how they
isn't it like 3 transactions per second? Isn't that what BTC can handle right now?
Yeah, so it depends on the calculation. So 3 to 7. The thing about Bitcoin, which is confusing, you often think when we talk about Visa and MasterCard and credit card, they take a percentage of the monetary value in it. That transaction, maybe it's 1%. With Bitcoin, it's not. It's the data in the transaction. So if someone, if you're a lolly shop and people are spending 5 cents, 10 cents, $1, you'll get lots of they're called UTXOs. I don't want to get too nerdy, but
get nerdy on me. Get nerdy on this is your show. Yeah.
Well, for my audience, I don't want to get too nerdy. But you'll have a lot of transactions that then when you go if you then combine those UTXOs, those transactions into, let's say, a few $100s to the lolly supplier, that's a fairly big transaction in data. So you'll spend more. Now on BTC, that will cost quite a lot, that sort of data. So really big problem. It's congested, and you'd think, what are we going to do? It's what can we do about this great currency? It's scarce or limited, like gold, and as you say, it's more limited, so that's great. But here we are in 2023, and it's really congested. Maybe cryptocurrency isn't what it's all hyped up to be. Well, that's interesting, but what I learned when I started reading more is it's actually extremely simple. There's a setting in the cryptocurrency that just a parameter that is how big you have this. It's called a block size, but it basically means the capacity of the network. And some people just didn't want to change it, it seems. And I guess we maybe won't do it in this episode, but there's conspiracy theories that you could go.
It's no theory, mate. It's fact. You had invested interests that wanted to keep Bitcoin small, the block size small, because had it not, right, it would virtually make banks and Visa and MasterCard obsolete. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. And I'm telling you now, man, if I was a banker, I'll be investing in some shell company. So maybe I might call it Blockstream, right? And I'll be doing what I can to make sure that I've actually got one in my wallet. I've got a Visa. It's a MasterCard, and I can spend my Bitcoin but it's through my MasterCard. And what it does is it converts my Bitcoin into fiat currency before I can spend it. Yeah, and then the power's back on them, right?
Yeah.
So let me ask you this question, because you touched on something that I think your viewers might want to understand is, if you put up a QR code saying $15 and I scan it and I'm sending you $15, are you getting $15, Dominic, or are you getting $15 less fees?
So, I mean, in a Bitcoin transaction, I suppose it depends. The wallet is normally that's the app that
the sender pays the higher fee, doesn't he?
Yeah, so it probably depends. Like, so if most wallets will sort of separate the two values, but certainly Bitcoin, they'll separate it. I've noticed most Bitcoin Cash wallets don't really care about transactions, because here's the real kicker. We just talked about this Bitcoin being congested, and what do we do? Well, Bitcoin Cash just changed that parameter, and suddenly fees drop, and you're back to how Bitcoin was back in 2014 or something like that. So that's great. A lot of hope there. I suppose we can be very optimistic, but it seems like it's a really slow chog to momentum. There's a lot of momentum that needs to be gathered, and it seems like that's what's happening in Townsville again, which is great to see. I really like how in Townsville it's not so much about having Bitcoin that you can just put in a wallet on a offload it on a computer that's turned off, disconnected from internet. I mean, you should be careful with your funds, but it seems like people are actually using it. Like, you can actually go out and spend. Economists use the term store of value and medium of exchange, two different parameters for money, and it's a bit nerdy, but I guess for normal people, it's like savings and spendings. Like at Townsville, you can actually go and spend your cryptocurrency, your Bitcoin Cash. And for me, when I realized that you can actually use it, that makes it explains why people might want to save, right? Like, if you can't spend your currency, then it's probably a Ponzi scheme, and something that isn't really relating to anything in real life. And it's just a great example of what's happening in Townsville. So I don't know if you heard this. I want to get up to Townsville.
It's great, man. Like, if you really want, you can come here for a holiday. There's actually been news articles from people from overseas. They've come to the Bitcoin Cash City, and they virtually nearly spend the whole. They could, if they want to, just do 100% Bitcoin Cash. They can get accommodation. They can get accommodation. We used to have taxi cabs, but they did get bought out by a national company, and I was unsuccessful to onboard the national company. But I've got a scooter hire company, so you can come to the Bitcoin Cash City, Townsville, Australia. You can get accommodation, and you can get a scooter, and you can scoot around and see the sights, Mananic Island. You can go all of these different places. You got restaurants, you got cafes. I'm looking to book a helicopter flight in the coming weeks, so I'll be going on a helicopter ride. I've already been on one helicopter ride. I'm looking to go again because I loved it. We've got 2 helicopter companies now, not just one. We've got 2. And Noel, one of a great gentleman here in the Bitcoin Cap. He onboarded the helicopter company. I didn't do that. So we've got people, not just myself. We've got other people here that use it. We've got merchants referring to merchants. And basically, I help curate for a period of a year, maybe a little bit over a year. I was doing it full time. I'm not doing it full time anymore, and that's been a bit of a challenge. I'm starting to juggle things around, but I was doing it for full time, and we went from 40 odd merchants to over 40 something now. So
Okay.
wow,
we do look. That's decent.
Yeah. So merchants do come in on and off. So you got three type of merchants that accept it. One that will accept it because they forward thinking.
Okay.
They like voting with their dollars. It's sort of like a silent protest.
Yeah.
The rest of the competitors. Some that are investor minded, so I'm thinking, okay, future price rises, and those that just accept it as the new cashy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay.
So you got different types of businesses, and you play to their strengths. Very few of our merchants require underwriting, and this is the thing that really excites me. You've got a very, very small percentage of merchants here that would actually want to be cashed out straight away for their Bitcoin Cash, and that is because they understand the why. When you've got the why do you want to accept Bitcoin Cash? Why do you want to use it? Then Bitcoin Cash to Australian value doesn't matter anymore. If anything, the Australian dollar should be valued off Bitcoin Cash because it's finite. They just print more Aussie dollars if they want. They can't print more Bitcoin Cash. So in my mind, in my mind, people should. There will be a flippening. It will flip one day. You know.
I think you're. I think you're right. Yeah. I guess I would say, like, while I don't think the dollar's great, I think it's terrible how it's used to control people. There is something that I think a lot of Bitcoiners miss with the dollar, and that the dollar is a really good medium of exchange. And you can see the network effect of the dollar in Australia. It's the Australian dollar. You've probably experienced, like I have, when I've reached out to people to say, to talk about Bitcoin Cash, and especially in a place where I'm in Tassie, in the country, where there's not many other, there's two local people, but the idea to say, accept Bitcoin Cash, that it's like, well, why? Like, what can you do with it? It's useless, and sadly, that's fairly
Duncan, it's not useless. I live in Townsville. I went to St. Kitts.
I know it. I
use it there, but the thing is during the lockdowns and everything and the persecution, if you went a certain way or not, you were forced down a road. Bitcoin Cash became very, very popular then.
Right.
Okay. When it became very popular when you needed to trade and your bank won't let you trade, right? Or there's something when there's social or economic sanctions put on you, Bitcoin Cash it saved people here in Townsville from losing their homes.
Right.
Yeah, we've had teachers accepting Bitcoin Cash and doing homeschooling, like having classes, and started like a homeschool type classes. And myself, I paid in Bitcoin Cash so I can have my children homeschooled.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because I'm working. Working.
Can I just ask you a question? Pretend that I'm devil's advocate for a while, because the start of the show we talked about CBDCs for a moment. I imagine there's people out there that when they hear Bitcoin Cash and more adoption, and now there's 240 businesses in Townsville, there's a part of them that would be thinking, hang on, like, you guys were talking about CBDCs are not a good thing, but yet here's a digital currency. They're sounding similar. How do you know it's not going to morph into this CBDC that the government's going to take control?
That's a great question.
What is different? And I guess you touched on a little bit then. What's different about Bitcoin Cash that is
Bitcoin Cash is not owned or operated by anyone. You've got mathematically equations that release certain amount of Bitcoins or Bitcoin Cash. It's both the same, except Bitcoin Cash is large in the volume of transactions it can handle, right? No one controls that. At every 4 years, they release every 10 minutes of the Bitcoin or Bitcoin Cash is halved every 4 years, roughly, right?
Yeah.
So that makes it uncensorable. No one can close, because if you try and close some, like they tried it in China, man. I bought stuff in China and paid for services in China with Bitcoin Cash.
Right. Okay.
You know, I'm buying coffee from Uganda in Bitcoin Cash. I'm buying shoes from Uganda in Bitcoin Cash. I had someone that made the startup to my logo on my YouTube channel from Bangladesh, man. And you know what? I paid him what we would call like not a lot of money, was like our doctor's wage. You know what I mean? And it was nothing for me, but I've actually had a whole video intro made, and he was absolutely blessed his socks off because I paid him in Bitcoin Cash and he received it within seconds, man. And it didn't cost me any more than a cent to do that. Now, I didn't have to go through a payment channel like Western Union or anything like that. You know, he could have been like a political affiliate and had his bank account shut down. Look, Dominic, I can text you Bitcoin Cash. I can send you an email. I can private message you. I can it's just been between you and me. So it's cash, but it's digital.
Yeah. Right? And I guess maybe. Oh, sorry, you go.
We're staying on subject, yeah. So I lost my train of thought.
So just maybe to build on that is some of the terminology that they CBDCs. Describe in cryptocurrency is like they talk about non-custodial, and that's a really big difference that I learned in the early days. That like gold, great, as we were talking about before, good store of value. You put in a vault to protect it because it's really valuable. It stores that value well. But the thing about gold, you have to put in that vault. You have to. You have to trust someone, or if you're dealing with coins, it can be cumbersome. Where
it's hard to move
with cryptocurrency and Bitcoin Cash in particular, all you need is like a smartphone, and it can be a really cheap smartphone at that, and it's quite powerful. You can put the cryptocurrency on that phone, and it can be sent to anywhere in the world in an instant, and nobody can stop you. It's reasonably fair to say nobody can stop you. You just and it's still very liquid. So fundamentally different from a CBDC in that when you sign that transaction, when you press that send button on that app, there's nothing to get there's no middleman there to censor that transaction. And I guess that's fundamentally different from a CBDC, which is an account somewhere else. The cryptocurrency is on your phone. So if your phone app works, you've got electricity, you can send it. So that's probably what I would say to someone that might say, well, it's going to morph into something else. It's look, you don't, I mean, it can, but you can, you choose your own wallet. It's fundamentally a different thing than a CBDC in that way, in that you can control, you've got complete control. The individual has complete control over their Bitcoin. You can delete that app from your phone. It can die if you've got, as long as you've got a backup. If you memorize that backup, you can cross borders. You can go anywhere around the world, and you pull up those funds. I had a great story, you know. I had it was almost almost a sad story, but I had a friend who thought he lost Bitcoin. So he had Bitcoin. Yeah. I think it was probably as early as you, sort of thing, and it wasn't. It wasn't, the amount wasn't a millionaire, but you could buy a house not long ago with it, right? So he asked me, and he had an old computer, and it wasn't super complex, right? He had an old app on that computer that I think he had deleted accidentally, and it just had the data file still sitting there. But you know, if you can't find the icon, maybe for some people they think it's gone. Right. So he reached out to me, and he thought it was gone, but
you sourced it back.
It probably took me about an hour just to go through, read up about this program, where it stored the file, found the file, had to use a command line tool to decrypt it and transfer it to another computer. We still didn't know if it was going to work in this while we're doing these different steps. Eventually got the password right, and bang! The moment we sort of saw the new wallet suddenly appear with those funds, you thought it was gone. It was a very surreal experience. It was a great experience actually to go through, and it was life-changing for him. So that was fun. So yeah, in that instance, you have to be careful because
that's a perfect example. So what you just shared is why I love Bitcoin Cash so much. You got the seed phrase. You can drop your phone in the toilet, or you go jet skiing or something like that, or something happens to your computer, or you forget your password or whatever. You've got the seed phrase. You can restore it if you you restored the file and it all came up again. The difference is you had the file, you had the seed phrase, right?
Yeah.
With the CBDCs, you're trusting a third party. You're trusting a bank. They can shut down. There could be a bank run. They can decide they don't like you anymore. They can, there's a myriad of issues that you can have. You're putting your trust in that, and they might decide, you know what, I'm just going to confiscate everything. And that has happened. Where they just
certainly has happened.
Your funds.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the difference is you're responsible for your wealth. You've got it. Right. And I could basically, if you pull up a QR code on the screen, I can scan it and send you funds. With certain apps, certain wallets, you can text someone funds, and even if they don't have the app, the wallet themselves, they will receive the text message. It will download the app for them, and they will receive the funds in their wallet on the app. And that's how I've onboarded so many people. Is I've sent them a text, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Send them a text. Now, when I send them a text, right, I make note in my wallet. Sent Dominic $5, right? Right, $5 sent to Dominic, right? And I record your phone number on there. And so when I go through my history, I go, oh, I wonder if he's claimed his funds yet. And I check to see if it's claimed. And oh yeah, he's claimed it. And I might see that I paid $5, but it's $5.50. So I ring up Dominic and I say, hey, Dominic, how you going? Hey, just for just check on your Bitcoin Cash wallet, He looks, he goes, oh, I made 50 cents. That's a great way. You know what I mean? But Dominic can go to the one or two places down there in Tasmania and spend it. Maybe he can't spend it there in Tassie, but he can go to St. Kitts. He may go to the Caribbean. Mate, I did not touch an American or Caribbean dollar once when I was in St. Kitts. It was I never left Australia. It was like I never left the Bitcoin Cash city.
Yeah.
Everything, my taxi rides, my food, my accommodation. It was like I never left home. And the biggest thing that is I didn't pay any merchant fees. I didn't have to set up a special traveling Visa, MasterCard. There was no traveler's checks. I wasn't getting pinged for every transaction because I'm overseas. It was like I never left home, right?
Yep.
And the best thing is I'm paying person to person. The only fee there was 1 cent, man. I rather pay 1 cent than 60 cents to Visa, MasterCard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I tell you a story, right? We've got Angelfish Dragonfly. Here's a plug. Angelfish Dragonfly. They are a children's boutique here in the Bitcoin Cash city, and they have 1 or 2 Bitcoin Cash sales per month, right? It's not a lot, but it's something, right? And Angela says to me that she loves Bitcoin Cash because with Afterpay, there's a big fee. With Visa and MasterCard, depending on what they use, American Express or whatever, there's at least a 1.75% charge, right? So that comes out of it. So when someone pays in Bitcoin Cash, instantly they're up on their overheads 1.75%. That's why she loves it. Now she can go next door. She can go next door to the Spirited Goat and get herself breakfast or coffee or whatever. We've got a lot of hairdressers here. lot of hairdressers here. We've got a merchant called Pro Hair Supplies. And so our hairdressers buy their hair care products and supplies and scissors and all that from Pro Hair. Because they, you know what I mean? So we're trying to close the circle here.
Yeah, real circular economy there. That's great.
And look, and I just encourage everyone, be Satoshi. You are, I am, we are all Satoshi. Don't be scared. Just practice it. That's how we started. Look, I'm nothing special, right? I'm just I'm a plasterer and painter by trade, right? I just started having yeah. I just started doing meetups, right? Like I learned from the Bitcoin Cash City, my very first one, and I started onboarding merchants by asking, "Do you accept Bitcoin Cash?" My very first merchant that I'm onboarded outside the Bitcoin Cash City was a place called Mean Beans Cafe. Now this one, right? He was like what you're saying. They did not really know or understand. But Dominic, listen. If you go to a cafe, something simple, maybe their business is not thriving as it should be. Say, and strangely enough, say to the merchant owner, I'm thinking about holding a Bitcoin Cash meetup here. You've got a great setting. I love you. You do great coffee. Love your sandwiches. Your braised steak and onions are top notch. I would love to have a meetup here. Can I have a meetup here? Right? I want to do something special because it's a Bitcoin Cash meetup. A lot of these people want to spend and use Bitcoin Cash. Now, and then see how you go with that. Now, if he doesn't like the idea of accepting Bitcoin Cash, it's look, it's free to use, but I'm prepared to underwrite you. So whatever's spent here, whatever Bitcoin Cash spent here, I'll buy it dollar for dollar value in Australian dollars. It'd be cash. I'll pay in cash, right? What happened, right? What ends up happening is it's either a way of you getting Bitcoin Cash not from an exchange, or he'll end up just accepting it anyway. And that's what happened in my case. Because merchants care about customers coming through their doors, you know. So a merchant can write off their Bitcoin Cash sales as a special promotion. So if they worry about volatility and it goes down, they can write it off as a promotional thing, advertisement, right? If it goes up, oh, wow, I made some money, right? Either way, they've got, or whether you underwrite them, they're still benefiting because they're getting more people through their doors. That's what's important to a merchant. It's not necessary at the how much money is being spent. It's how much the traffic comes through there. And so you have a meetup. You have a meetup there, and people buy coffees. You're doing a couple of things. You're teaching people about Bitcoin Cash that are interested in crypto. I had people from Solana and XRP and Bitcoiners. I had people from all Dogecoiners and all this and NFTers. They just want to go to a cryptocurrency meetup and it's Bitcoin Cash. Oh, I go to it, right? They come there, whether they spend Bitcoin Cash or not, they still rewarding the merchant by hosting the meetup.
Yeah, okay.
Right? So you might say, you might have some people that want to have Bitcoin Cash and say, okay, and you might teach them how to open up an exchange. If they don't have an exchange, they might have some Bitcoin Cash. They might convert their BTC into BCH like what I did. And then they spend it. And then if you keep having your meetups at that location, the guy at the coffee shop or whatever, he's going to love you because Dominic is bringing me customers. You know, whether I accept the underwriting or not, he's bringing me customers. You're creating a bit of a community feel there, right?
Yeah, okay.
And you're building retail and merchant adoption at the same time, because once you have your meetup at one spot for so long, you might try somewhere else. You know, it might be a restaurant. Yep. You know, and then go, well, old mate from down the road, he accepts Bitcoin Cash. You know what I mean? And that's a layman's way of starting the cycle there. Because at the end of the day, with the CBDCs coming, right? People still want to use cash. Now, if they ban cash, Bitcoin Cash is the new cash. That's just all it is to it. It's just you and I want to trade. It's the new cashy in the trading speak. It's a cashy. It's a love job. I'll do a cashy for you. Mates rates. When I was on the Gold Coast, I onboarded an international landscaping company because I did work for them, and I would not accept any payment except for Bitcoin Cash. I made him pay me in Bitcoin Cash.
Okay.
Right?
Radio.
Shane, he's still my friend these days. It's Australian company down in Gold Coast there. Okay. Won awards for their landscaping. They're on the Bitcoin.com maps. I onboarded them.
Cool.
Yeah,
okay.
And yeah, so
that's great, Jason.
Jason,
Oh no, I don't think I had another question. I think we probably should wrap up because it's taken quite a long. Let's not keep them too long, and let's go into. I'd love to talk more about merchant onboarding strategies, things like that. Another episode. It's great in this episode just to meet you and just chat a bit. We'll do some more next time. So any other sort of last words before we wrap up?
Like I always say, you are, I am, we all Satoshi. If you got Bitcoin Cash, it's your great commission to spread Bitcoin Cash. Whether you're someone like Gabriel, firstmeal.com, who would just pay people, like give them a cent or $5, $10. It's an easy way to spread adoption that way. Retail. I would suggest holding meetups. And meetups. At a place.
I think what I would also say to my audience is, we're not giving any financial advice, first of all, but I think as far as like last episode, I was talking about fighting back with cryptocurrencies. It's not about, changing your whole lifestyle or something like that. Disconnecting your bank account. Look, if you could do that, great. But for me, I suppose like it's the small things. Trying to, like I'm selling things on Facebook this week, and I'm putting on that. Look, by the way, I accept Bitcoin Cash as an alternative. So the options there, and planting seeds and growing that Bitcoin Cash economy organically. Fundamentally,
we got to vote with our dollars.
Exchange. What's that? Sorry.
If we got to vote with our dollars, I call it a boycott. Right. So you got boycott and you got boycott.
Okay.
So you boycott those that are not doing the right things, and you boycott on the things that are going the right directions.
Yeah.
So I am boycotting fiat, and I'm boycotting Bitcoin Cash. Right. I am support. If you're okay, I'm in Tasmania. I can guarantee you, if there's two cafes side by side, one accepts Bitcoin Cash and one doesn't, I boycott the Bitcoin Cash one. I go there, and that is true with everyone that comes to the Bitcoin Cash city. They go to they favor, even if the coffee is not as good as the other guy. I will still go to the Bitcoin Cash guy.
Yeah, okay.
Dude, I'm sold out, and I'm telling you, the more we go down a road that's not good for everyone, more people are going to wake up and see Satoshi was right all along. The Bitcoin Cashes were right? And yes, I got BTC, and it's great to have and all that. I'm not going to hate anyone that's got BTC, but it's good to use Bitcoin Cash. And I think we should use it or we'll lose it. And it's all, look, if you've got the network effect, the network effect grows, you grow the network, well, guess what? The rising tide lifts all boats.
Sounds good parting words.
Yeah.
Thanks for your time, Jason. It was good to meet.
Thank you, Dominic.
In person, face to face, and we'll do it another time. So
and I enjoyed your last episode, Techfreely. I really enjoyed it. That was good.
Oh, cheers, mate. It's good to hear.
Mhm.
Great. Okay, so until next time, everyone, we'll have a good week, and we'll catch you next time.